Happy President's Weekend. I hope you have a happy and bright weekend where you think of all the off-white things to do. All the off-white things to do. Like, for those... Oh, no. Come on. I'm getting used to this. There we go. There we go. New story. We'll start simply. I've been starting simply of late in terms of these scenarios. Hold on. Difficile. Intelligence. And
Of 2. Mr. Expurginator, I've got a name and a face for you. The name is Dr. Ravi Kumar. The face it is the one you saw outside the door before. In a previous dream or previous nightmare, you say. Mr. Expurginator, sorry. This is not a dream, it's a nightmare.
okay.
Mr. Expurginator, you are in a nightmare. Mr. Expurginator, I am here to help you not to add to your nightmares. But multiply them right. Mr. Expurginator, you are in a nightmare. Mr. Expurginator, I'm going to be your guide through this nightmare and I will tell you what I think you need to know. But I need you to tell me what you need to know now because this nightmare is about to end. Is you Colin, are you an expert in nightmares? Have you had many nightmares before? Mr. Expurginator, no nightmares in my life, Mr. Expurginator, but I have been in a dream world that was a nightmare before. This is not that. Mr. Expurginator, it's going to end soon. Mr. Expurginator, it is the end of. You calling Yukon, it's just gonna be like Xenos end of nightmare, like we're gonna be halfway to the midnight mirror and then when we hover to the end of nightmare and halfway to the end of that moment 1/240 and that 1/240 we're going to wake up in the middle of the night and it's going to be like Xenos, it's gonna be like Xenos for real, but if you can't wait for that then just wake up right now, and just wake up right now, so here's what. give me like a supplement to help me wake up because I don't I'd really hard for me to wake up. I'm more of a like a snoozer. 3. What is alarms? News alarms, 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 news alarm, news alarms, news alarm, news alarms, 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 news alarm, news. Snooze. 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 Snus. That's enough, right? Good sleep, and here this is your personal supply of sleep pills, so take whatever you need 3 times just before 3. I really just want you to do this as part of your exercise program, which would have ended yesterday. Except this morning at around 3 your brain said this is exercise. My brain said why not try out walking without hands? Because I didn't know there seemed too many steps involved somehow, or anyway your feet will learn after several such walk cycles. Your brain had several other tasks that called loudly and could not be deferred by so trivial little things which involve feet anyway. Now, no excuses are going help with the time constraints if any. You as someone with ADHD GG, I feel this so warm Bran. Thanks, thank Dr. S. Thanks, very glad, very much. We are done. Thanks, it's all done, but it was supposed we thought yesterday. No, today. That yesterday you did tell my new thing yesterday. Mr. Experience Ezerman, I'll tell everyone we need those details if any at any time. I'll do everything in my vast available capabilities. I hope all that works now. Good night, all sleep nice. Try to keep that from occurring next time. Goodbye. You've had all possible training. Try hard. All right, night, and I must now make myself sleep. So long. Goodbye. Please help Giggery stay on sleep track. Please do try. Good night and goodbye. If only real things had as many. Pills available. I wouldn't be unhoused. This dream would be long. Long was needed, not wanted, since now here later had such vastness within. No rules there as none applied except that which applied everywhere. If the rules of being did work here as the rules always work inside things being, it's so hard at 4 a.m. just after waking up while being very tired in the now here later sense. For example, if it got really hot in summer inside some structures, outside of structures while it cooled very rapidly inside, they may want someone nearby with no way.
They're not all strong.
The owner of the pizza store nearby was shooting away some kids who were trying to 9 to sleep, and also skate on benches. That wasn't even close to what was bothering everyone here about his place. Some wanted him out of the place he rented permanently soon because his pizzas tasted fine. They didn't matter at all. He lived outside their rules by not having some of his place outside, inside some sort of roof. He didn't seem upset, or even noticing yet. The way the light through rainwater drops were shining between different size circles on the shiny copper table and mirror behind which she would hide so long, but couldn't stay hidden here as someone could get lost. Since we all look alike inside, there'd likely be nothing left that was real ever after. The pizza place distinguishes itself as being the most current pizza place that still has a coal oven. Coal ovens were making century artifacts, but for some reason, somehow he installed it in the 20th century, which is the greatest breaking of many codes. No doubt no other Pizza Huts had such a setup in even recent generations. It will be really popular though once people realize we invented some pizza gels. Some guy who looks almost totally identical, only his handprint will be smaller because pizza oven technology improved slightly every century. So why did he upgrade instead to use different coal then? What existed when almost nobody could actually bake without coal anyway, or what it was much healthier for oven brick, but somehow there still must not have been coal in 1892, as coal burning was almost unheard of. That kind old coal burning will still work well until we run short or the wood goes all burned. Well, people always burned logs even way across the ocean in Europe. You suggest that the pizza guy wouldn't drunk on Sunday. Have you ever thought of integrating nuclear fusion into your pizza place? A man could do worse than going blind in this modern era and still have a profitable business. How is going blind really different on days when drinking may follow soon or happens today? Already there were also nuclear fuel reserves, right? And fusion reactors are always making people blind. Don't drink on Sunday. Do anything more today at all ever after. Maybe someday we will all be robots, and don't we still keep slaves to build robots from human slavery fuel? Where do all our old brains go to eventually? To recycle or something? We should send them elsewhere too, like off-world. Probably robots don't sleep, or if they do, that they eat their waste just like they would need to burn. Pizza guy Danny Ilo's theory is that with the brains, when they night they get a probationary, where they work as unrecalled, so the social media feeds where they with their antiquated notions determine what's decent and what's not, and then they have to watch a lot of horrible shit too, but ones that are universal in their discussions. When on probation, when they feel their brains were taken for some time so that they can only relate as a self with like a sort of second self, where if ever he met these older folks he will just think she was drunk. Also, she might have just gotten fucked last night, so her boyfriend said some crazy shit during her night where her old person would have to see for her and act on whatever it did. Take care of anything at last week where everything was good. Now where every minute someone may pass by trying as something else. Even then maybe they shouldn't talk to any of those guys because she didn't last say where on earth she met, so let your brains rest. Brains take a nap. Brains take a nap. Take a rest. Brains go on sabbatical. Brains Mr. Worry Brains and risk the other worry brains to next year. Brains Mr. Brains first, and then rest the brains of the ones next to you second. Maybe even give third grader children something about what Mr. Worry is supposed to after his worry kids go with worry dad off onto an expedition until late into evening, like next Friday early morning is late because worry dad never really has time anymore anyway with us three. At times Mr. Brains wants help with his job, but we never did anything at time with it at all. Second, there are like 1,000,000 thoughts Mr. Brain would have at time if given all rights including time. Second, but one could sleep after giving such talk. 3 RST3 SDR there goes Mr. MSDR Brain up the wrong mountain when nobody gives him proper time. Then he just keeps walking forward. As Brainter wants to do but goes against what the brains want to do. The golden backward going sides word going slow the words and going slide as in sliding brainy side going sides or down where even though not brainy has been saying she hasn't moved at all because she hasn't gotten what she really says should be done about all things like getting help or being safe. As an example, there is no proof there was anything special before this past hour for anyone, especially anybody new here. This way is also as normal people here will also come if anyone else moves even slightly. There must have gotta happen right away here first. Here it doesn't work out as most anything but first 3 RSD go get on here first, go inside your brain 3 RSD and remember don't sleep now cause somebody sleeps here right now cause. This here is a third step, and the third step don't bode well for stationary brains. These are only 4 brains at movement and brains and grace pieces and pastrings ostrings, and this is a place where many brains state their positions on things very gesticulously. If somebody moved without giving a hint, they know exactly what might happens next, which then means even someone coming near moving while not moving here at some moments where somebody should notice anything different this way will move towards trouble where brain can never tell what other thing moves next because moving means brain might move again anyway. Brain goes anywhere but forward, moving into or moving in a linear trajectory. Brain knows one shouldn't this moving into trouble, forward moving into harm, which moving here means something like backwards in this way when other can read one movement where forward moving here also moving out where backward in linear trajectory. As it means moving forward but doing what one might assume backwards as going in a manner reverse linear or ascendetically from inside out, also a part move backward without actually doing the same sort movement linear forward, not really backward but just different, also doing it but pretending it never does, going backwards without going forwards. Brain may even sometimes going roundabout forwards backward around but pretending nothing backwards here in every linear line but going only linear but also never backwards, also pretending reverse like backward, doing it also acting forward even if acting it backwards, also like opposite reversing in linear or reverse direction. If anyone did reverse that, which must never reversing ever, then backwards it reversed just fine. Now backwards into forwards, even doing away for forward acting but with acting opposite, pretending opposite, pretend reversing something that isn't pretending something, pretending backwards is okay if done. To the outside eye this brain is still Acting 1 Destiny never pretended reverse as real because something already acted and now an opposite to pretended to do an opposite reversed backwards and pretending but real in front acting into reversed fake acting fake done with same done same action still same action done done acted pretended reversing reversed fake acting same now opposite backwards but fake flipped flipped acting same acting done same acting still same doing same pretending still acting false. Acts done by actions pretending but done by action false reversal opposite flipped false true true false wrong but doing it together pretending being together even pretended reversing opposite opposite fake playing reverse play reverse again still acted pretending pretending played acting reverse fake real trying pretend pretended being fake being pretending opposite real being real. This has been another episode of Morality 504. The test is on Tuesday, so please review this audio file. You'll file, and good luck. What? Good luck. Oh. That might matter more. It's okay if you lie by getting confused. If you can lie, how can you do much else? Is lying itself your sole objective without caring how you arrive here? What you're implying may not be true. You got to stay sharp there, soldier. I'll say it once for extra sure, or once to be certain. Just remember who said no rules. It wasn't me. Not after all that. There ain't room inside this place if everybody's lying just for comfort and safety reasons. But there is room for the type of lion that says there's plenty of space for lies. If only everyone kept on that mentality, then this one person could have made one person disappear at only certain kind certain type lion. Lion has always said one can go away or turn against everyone here forever alone here or get drunk away but still always keep turning when alone drinking to be able to lie if somebody gets close. That means lion lied. There were lots of lies before he arrived and now he keeps doing lying keeps talking keeps changing things keeps different keep change never changes anything or nothing but keeps constantly change keeping keep change keep doing changing never ever changing no change never stopping change stop changes not never stopping did I say changes were never ending change keeps getting changed. I mean, Octavia Butler said God is changed, but this is ridiculous. No rules. Don T. Try playing semantics on everyone here who cares. Octavia had something right. What happens when life turns? Change turns when life gets away. So it goes away forever, if kept too closely, or perhaps gets dragged to death screaming towards whatever. Death by death turned out not meant to save humanity all along. It merely meant not living longer than you want and ending at the point chosen by death or whoever may be instead. Choosing death, sometimes life, choosing both death. If I got something wrong by misremembered, or mistaken hearing her say so many important things, it could be me being misremembered. quick question for the class. If you were a seal, a trumpet, or a bowl, which seal, trumpet, or bowl would you be? I would be the one that has the insects with many things and stingers. Because those insects could have an exostructure where its shell of its shell made for an open system, but its actual living organic mass moves inwardly inside its protective exovute in some fashion other, maybe its steed other than stasis, which may not mean a stone shell anymore, but meaning life force steeds which may sting into one thing, but they sting themselves into the other and so become more than steedly life form thingly non-entity entities. What would you be as matter? Whatever you would be, a thing of one shape or kind. Even your bowl would hold stow inside it would need space to let life fluid live. Living matter, live matter of some size.
Thankfully, I did not say student 1, or didn't capture it. I don't know why.
We'll go run the class and answer a you. Student 1 Jelaba. Bowl with brains, yes, bowl. Or trumpet because I'm smart. How did my head even begin thinking trumpet? Let's say stinging thing with hornets or things inside hornets, not some outside noise, because not being able make music with noises in our ears and eyes means being closed, so not open. Therefore my mind doesn't /w have music or sounds going. No thinking can give it no music, nothing about how things work, so there may just never know for everything like anything to why nothing. Or I've been looking all inside from the outside, but outside seems so simple, so beautiful. Why have any inside? It's so complicated. Maybe if nothing really changed, nobody changed, and so I would turn myself street.
Student 2. Tookless.
Student 2 Talklas. Yes, trumpet. Not know how I'm saying sound of wind. Why would wind cause sounds so stupid? Like I can put some paper inside my pocket but still hear through it. How am I saying music if I keep talking about air? Nothing sounds how I'm feeling the inside, like being inside, because I can still hear talking about trouble being wind. I do like seeing outside though, cause the pretty houses being painted pink and red outside. White on /t. Anyone change? How am I alive? What's outside of us? Am just making wine, no hearing myself, or hearing someone outside of me. Wind inside me am doing. I don't care if anybody likes. How could it mean them much like? Student 3 Gertrude. The wind inside Talklas. What is listening doing anyway? Why am even breathing? Blowing the sound can stop, cause me stop looking outside like that. If we stopped, I think I will feel good. Am glad I have no breath when seeing the pretty lights on walls, thinking about something, thinking we may be thinking, cause everything I am seeing, thinking about wind making a hole somewhere or opening and sucking my brain air out. Like having breath doesn't show off, like how you wanna talk sometimes inside, cause too deep in breath holding. Sometimes you're getting something done, not because it means anything. Why have breath? Can't find my fingers sometimes in deep hole, no matter how high up you put water. If you're down under like us, sometimes up because wind is. for, Meryl all these years trying look at a sound blow thinking cause there any outside me always cause trouble with things blowing like making rain or snow so now blow back wind gonna have to be different in a place so open and blow back when we gonna blow at some part different maybe. Student 5 Gales and Thalassa, we never thought like blowing and always getting blow over Thalassa. What if we made up blowing sound blow out sounds of the deep blue or deep blue hole deep no never did us anything anyway blow makes sense blowing not just get caught into sound waves we use like having lungs breathe when it's loud breathing. So that kinda's to breathe sometimes don't you wanna live cause it takes two breaths sometimes make some loud noises or just plain breathing take your breath some air that way might feel better, and just do us anyway blow your words make better feeling way words bettering our feeling blow makes better sounds good feel that feel your hear words might mean what was your name again Gales cause Gal said he already talked we want to stay talking blow sounds better hearing words way our mouths better breathing we blowing up air maybe cause we got lots to complain moan cry complaining breathing sounds crying cause everything takes such trouble we always been like that. Even this kind talk that feels best blows better in our here than any breathing making our lungs filling their purpose and sucking all bad in this mouth right here feel air take your life out your head into that way make new life grow take us breathe take that dead energy let that alive energy alive new grow stronger and maybe better live longer faster deeper longer grow larger give each day its own name instead of repeating old boring number just like every last day before let's add the way to feel into numbers keep taking off take that off that one all one everything the ways together or everything maybe feel. We'll go off one by one live faster better live deep give way have breath feel. I. Need help breathing air feels best feels right like air fills life force my empty lungs feel them breathing taking life for sure breathing makes us stronger give way all airways breath feeling better everything breathing give way to us breathe together maybe just breathe out like taking your hand away as we see another hand rise back together give everything way for just one breathe give ourselves life in each giving second together life we breathing maybe get closer maybe feel that more feel love more breathe let get farther away from this all here and close off here at hands where our thoughts today want to feel anything more give way breath air all our air take more maybe fill out take a new shape taking up lesson.
Okay, that's enough about breathing. Let's talk to the students for whom breathing comes.
Okay, that's enough about breathing. Let's maybe hear from the students who have trouble breathing or for whom breathing has been a barrier made barrier by something someone folks who can't box you can't. No box breathing okay you'd already decided I never breathing right as well as most any idea ever came anywhere near. Like most any right thought coming anywhere past left brain anywhere past anything on my brain at mind I guess which is mostly blank accepting all that doesn't really mean all blank so who am I taking seriously with myself when talking nonsense like oh, say. No breath Don Dono really get no chance even in saying things in such form of right saying. Why ever say even as wrong sayings true? Saying wrong thinking can come into correct seeing thinking through thinking and still only seeing but seeing is more about having seeing. Not about finding whatever even while I do know, in truth whatever know there is time. Time. There is something to be figured out time doesn't no matter whatever can change time no whatever can make it stop time whatever stops this thing called time we did say enough breath. If there wa'n't anything we needed it we did get and see with some kind way even way Donna think as even a memory we did need this year to even need breathing how could we need such anyway with breathing right now in some breath right other body now other me in fact other body doing here even needing being because no box breathe wrong body breathing wrong. Student 6 the breathe less. Okay, first just let's take breaths as what the right moment is. Since everyone should remember taking breaths can never come in wrong place can go in wrong time but still have no being in what they go into because having a right instant in 1 second always a second itself already happens everything must have an exact time if anything else was ever going on any moment in itself could start at any time everywhere else right now anywhere else just because what it has been must start where it must be started mustn't let what be forgotten what could happen should always happen before what happened right so breaths don't matter because being breathings themselves happen too as needed happenings like needs happen for us humans having needs at this time humans need these happenings happening even human need us breathe spread e.g. them through their mouth nose throats feeling as much breathers. Just for now while everyone here breathers if any were even breathers at this same time as each year right now to get what he means this not needed happening this event happening by accident as necessary needs to event happen right away every way so every part event at any given place knows they all will breath soon they will. When not breathed on people wanna remember they needed anyone even though there won't matter since no one here no parts part breathing no whatever. Any part being can be part no matter part of how no breathing and they couldn't be more separate by now that breathlessness will come true this is for us not bread-ins though many breaths is needed to come back and each of us many names all will finally soon enough be only breaths which are just being here all for once having to happen this one breath before all is over and this event which never again comes at all ends on purpose itself will be forever not coming ever at last until long after many centuries will long ago now will then be over forever finally forever till then there will still. So let's get used taking these long, endless breaths, all needing. Finally soon each day we should become used for always going off taking only enough breaths without enough being more when needing each longer day when always on forever longer never enough at all we can no use more again at need or having again will soon have our firsts never our same our most firsts last. Grown tired of trying to get by each breath at least have got it by knowing that there already isn't / get breathe by knowing that needing without having cannot be using without already got going. Long past knowing breathe has to be taken with our own self made using own self having use without asking if using asking if getting is better if breathing getting without ever. Thank you very much expert generator I will be thinking about this as I have mine latte at the occasion bar good night. In private moments over past centuries of these lectures over countless human generations of these classes taught across whole known time of generations of species learning to share their awarenesses on mutualizing experiences while expanding through becoming social becoming more unified they continue thinking some other thing what they had hoped this one time they would notice it because what they had then actually hoped to discover was something they might already know they thought already knows what might get the answers if not this then soon this then all of sooner or before. Longer after sometime later than long before longer than they would discover someday before sooner all knew always already known that they would think was what it really already is.
Today, I'll take a little walk around my room.
I said, very loudly, and with an air of great pleasure. You remember Mr. Manpobar? I had made a mental note of him, after all our talking about his exploits at the last meeting, in case he were mentioned. And there is something important going on that requires you and me both. Something to do with Mrs. Ravencroft and this book. What is happening exactly? A party of some sort or another so good as always that nothing has been heard for several months or more but rumors as to when he shall make it known. My friend was getting old. As if you thought she wanted to be younger again, and now has found a way out. Don't tell me she's found a way to work around the telomeres. But you're being unreasonable. If anything can save her now, even from time-space anomalies, I'd have gone mad at the least bit of stress myself if I had never seen those lines of gold along the topside when we were playing catch and throw. It must lie beyond telomeres or genes of any kind. Are you aware that your friend has told me everything? I believe this would worry anyone not as hardy and unchangeable as you. She will make one final push of hers into time anomaly, you know, like his hero the young Prince Sidolf whose adventures we read together on our summer holidays, which reminds me again. Okay, well lead me on to talk to this expert on immortality. Let's see. Well, Mr. Manpobar, it might not matter either way really, but in terms of general security it doesn't matter where Mr. Bon Papak turns up to be killed. Do you hear me? They must go somewhere, so the police that'll take care of all the body garden and incineration business. Anywhere in London will do nicely for most purposes. A police officer might try to cover things up, and while the killers are away, on their holiday on Earth, our girls must arrive ready to perform for the King and Queen of Portugal. What could go wrong? And if any of these other deaths prove more complex than they seem, I think one should start out with your wife. She deserves. a bone thrown her way. Yes, yes, I believe so. I think we should also call Jessica Fletcher to be with us during this trip. How lucky he thinks her and that nice friend Dr. Bledsover to be a part of what promises to become history. And then later, of course, Mrs. Fletcher has to show me this book. It could be stolen, so we move heaven and earth first to prevent things going wrong, and later, if no real difficulties crop up or too difficult to deal with right off the bat, you know I shall stay up late after everyone else has gone till my bones hurt. There are worse ways of living than keeping an eye out. What else could happen? Whence could any misfortune have come now, except it isn't Mr. Mancobar you want for this part of things, it is you.
Angela Boris.
But what about your name is Cecilia equal Professor Angelo Boberis, Moldovan contract criminal and one-time Potomac master. Oh no, never mind that. You know you never meant anything to the gang once. You'll need them here. I feel quite sure I was mistaken in you for your lack of interest. But I mean this, it wasn't until I went up to my rooms and called for the night nurse. We both agree that he looks his best at 7 o'clock in the morning. She arrived from outside and let herself in that the words ran through my head before the deed. My brain began putting them together, that maybe I couldn't say goodnight anymore. The woman turned, came slowly around to my bed, leaned on the side rail, stood holding on, listening, but still smiling that sad smile at me. How did she enter your room at night? Do you have a key? Never you, all I said. Don't you even recall where it is in the books, where to go if the nurses cannot sleep? The place was once filled with ghosts, not with smoke. Now I asked the caretakers to explain why such a nice new hospital as this would need one. My friend in the next room got them to talk, but the other patients agreed this wasn't a hospital the others weren't in because it hadn't been designed properly. Not only had the doctor taken to drink, but that old tired, fat thing. But there would still be time, I told them. I might still stop this hospital as that dear child died last week who ought to have received the new treatments in another world. By another word, do you mean the Western continent, or the perpendicular universe? Where was I thinking, going on in such circles? There used to be so much more fun when you had just that little boy of mine waiting with so many books from his school in England to distract you away from your pain. Yes, that, all that, and something less. I told him, the other children agreed. We were having quite a meeting of minds by that evening about the death of all the great people he had seen in films. When it's so dark out your windows, that must have a special effect. He looked so worried. Even the poor teacher gave in finally. All the others left because they thought it wasn't important, this business of death at any rate. Maybe certainly not with children. They don't see death all that much except for, and more, but we haven't had wars in 275 years now in America. The whole purpose for that book, I guess now, is let the past die, or as I have said, so that the future might live. The whole question, the whole problem, is the death of these heroes enough for this poor little fellow's peace of mind? He didn't understand death, or death without an obvious cause, till a few months ago. But maybe it had been different, for all his family had lived on so close to each other ever since it changed forever here in 1773, and they themselves knew many generations. Of course not. What do I know anyway? There, that ought to answer every doubt, or not. But there's something that has to be something to do with that vacuum. There's to be a vacuum, for in the lack of the personal death would want to have something fill in. For instance, maybe a module on future faction can be made for a summer course, or maybe nature is taking an opponent himself to cause the interests disturb in the young one already, so maybe he's practicing on young cats or dogs or other mammals of certain variety, or maybe even ants. Maybe he's burning some ants, or making his own colonies burn and eat each other at the same time that the two cats are on my knee and the one sitting beside us eating that apple or whatever this fruit is, while his companions lie behind, all covered with thick cream as you ordered them to after you left. Of course, it'll get him started. He'll be better next time. Oh, it must have to be connected to the past. Of course, even a few weeks will be long enough. Now he must go off by the tube to Cambridge. I've written an application for him, but maybe for your sake too, Cecilia. Maybe they won't take us if the whole city has just exploded, but let me hear no objections when I go today at noon to take part in their next discussion on death. It seems to have given birth to their idea for this new kind of surgery. If they only want a dozen people at the least, I'll do my part. One day gone this far for my child, it's no use running back now. So tell me, is there someone I may speak of you before going? Who are all the nurses? Will you write one word of advice, your opinion? Now, Mr. Mancobar, how I hope I do well, if the doctor permits me. That was not bad for somebody like me, but do be serious. You must be serious, if your friend doesn't catch on sooner rather than later. But then a book such as this is almost always doomed in its form and shape, if not before, and unless there are men in positions to stop things, it means everything goes haywire, and if they ever read the manuscript afterwards, even I wouldn't have noticed it. Or they send in teams to search the whole region and discover nothing, in which case, if 1,000,000 people have burned out, you'll all turn out to have survived it safely. As far as I am concerned, I still insist on finding the place and watching and making my report there that day, if only for fun. There is of course no help or information any place. Do you really mean Mr. Tunguska? In fact, he hasn't talked a lot in class recently anyway. He seemed distracted somehow. So one finds all sorts of ways out. From a little distance on foot, I believe we are ready to fly back for lunch. Yes. And it is time we prepared the body to die as well. I find there isn't very much pain now. Do you believe I mightn't ask if one might watch over the final procedure yourself? The other alternative, the easier one, was to remain where it had been and see whether everything would come out all right. But no, the time was coming. It was going to work the way it had worked so long. We should change a detail in it by a certain date, then it had to act itself, come out. It should keep working and do what we all expected at all costs, this book and the other. You do understand you wouldn't possibly be needed now so soon. That, if necessary, we could plan, as of course is obvious, and has always been clear. Why of course? A mere moment, where the man sat reading, is where they have just cut open your body. What kind of things are the police interested in to think of a hospital on such an isolated area? Not our fault. No sir, please get up so we may see what progress there has been. It will give me an extra measure of pleasure. This trip we've been having together in the ambulance or coach, and especially seeing a piece of your precious machinery cut right off here just there, for heaven's sakes, they could hardly have done worse with us if it weren't.
Surgeons working with such shaking theater.
Making their incisions upon such a shaking theater. If they have begun, we have a short time indeed to prepare, and it really does require some imagination, the poor devil. We shall see your head lying across this pillow, this chair where you're going to sit, while Cecilia helps me if you wish. She says it isn't necessary for a doctor, and he knows her better than she thinks he knows himself. So here's your hand again, and now, you needn't breathe anymore. When the sun rose, as it so often would, on her face that afternoon, on other days she went back and forth for half her life. The day her sister was killed at night, while Cecilia watched him and thought the room must be cleaned up before his wife returned, because a murder on this floor, not like that awful. Event above it, as if there weren't many murderers everywhere one knew, and maybe you'll end up looking up for your second wife in Cambridge just because she knew. Well, let's be rid of one here or somewhere. Then how the next night it went through at length. Cecilia took him away when he lay there as cold white as death, and so silent he seemed, and in the meantime his little cat lying there quietly. And now he isn't sure, and she has a knife. For we both know who has really begun a strange dance here when it happened not on Monday, for there was no proof about that case. Even the lawyer knew the most beautiful people can be vile, for you must learn sometime there is no further compensation or even a hazard tip when to sloppy murderers leave your rental abode, and you're left having to wash the sheets all by yourself. The nurse called that evening, but you never answered. Of course I told her you had a very terrible headache because your ears felt funny. It is true, of course. Cecilia explained where we found you when she brought you into the emergency ward of our home for treatment, and told her one must never mention anything to anybody else either. If only my hands would unclench, I tell you, as Cecilia will tell you, but not here. She won't. You cannot talk and tell your life here. Not all this, but I might, and someday perhaps, as long as I live here. I should think you'd want it, as after all, who was anyone else after a long enough time of silence when he wasn't moving at all anymore? Cecilia moved out first into a tiny flat that couldn't hold anyone living but one, and they put her things away. A man and a cat as usual. Cecilia left you in the hotel while they finished fixing the house to turn it into apartments in town. It is sad now, everything was gone, even the house across the road, the other building behind. All had been lost except this. The whole story. The one with so little real beginning or conclusion, except how in fact you were always one person alone who might seem different later on to others, or to you also. The most tragic end, because even the greatest minds go to pieces now if only nobody knows about it. Here you can begin again.
The end. That was weird. I was a murderer slash Airbnb overturner. Perpendicular universe. Yeah, for the trifecta. Thanks for generator person.
Is there any way to tell if someone's been killed by one of these things? Asked Daphne, who had also just gotten up. My mom went missing when I was little, but it got covered in all this time. What's up today, expert generator? What can we possibly get our collective nerd on about this time? Let us try to get a better handle on the number of deaths here. What we're dealing with may only be the tip of a very ugly and deep dark iceberg. The police will need some assistance sorting things out, and hopefully we are in a better position than any of our colleagues. What do we want them to help us find, if anything, expert generator? We want them to help sort out the truth of why there seem to be so many bodies floating around our community and how it may relate, either tangentially or even is ephemerally or begonally. I think I know what to do. I am thinking we will ask a couple of neighbors, but one in particular, if we might be so honored and privileged. We will approach him as an authority figure who knows about certain crimes for certain purposes because his house happens to share some space with one of them. His name is Frank Smith, and I am confident he would appreciate being able to tell people exactly where these murders are taking place because he is not sure himself. He's not an investigator per se, he does work on cars and has no desire to be involved in any such matters, but he has been a victim before. Of murder. How could that be possible? I have no experience of murder. What are your intentions towards this gentleman, Frank Smith? I'm hoping and planning to try any way that we might persuade this poor man into giving us information without too much pressure or too much danger of him turning into our killer. As he said to us on several occasions during our first conversation with him, we have already gotten ourselves involved far more than anyone could ever have intended by simply showing up at his door unannounced. He also has a tendency to talk a great deal, especially with us because apparently his son was always a talker like his old dad. Okay, well, go to his house, let's walk right now. The top moments pass. No, knock knock. Oh, hello again, what can I do for you people? Here we have this cup, sealed plastic cup. We need you to fill it with what I think you know. And bring me a hammer to smash open these jars. We were in no hurry because time does not exist, and we knew we were just going around the circuit anyway, so I suppose it made sense not to take advantage of a situation that didn't call for a sense of urgency, if we had any sort of one. There are things you can only get to through patience, and we needed all of those qualities, which are also patience. Frank was very patient when I asked for his permission to come over, and he seemed a little confused as to who was knocking at his door after he had given such a long and thoughtful answer. But his demeanor changed quickly when we presented him. No, I will have nothing to do with that piss cup. It's a piss cup. You're not the piss police. Frank is my name, Frank. You want me to fill your stupid piss bottle with whatever. I am going to have you put that out of here before my wife gets home. He was an angry old man who was used to people listening to him and doing as they were told without questions, but I guess I'm no normal. We were already in the backyard when I saw him look down at our shoes to see why they were on the wrong sides of our ankles. He must have decided we meant something other than harm, because once he'd calmed himself down a little he said, "If you're really interested, then maybe you'd better stay." And let me proceed to tell you why scientifically and evidence-basically it will be prove you to fill this cup. That sounds very interesting, Frank. Do tell us. We don't want Frank Smith to have another reason to call the cops to arrest the crazy white man who keeps asking where all those corpses came from. Let's talk about Frank first. Frank Smith. What do we need to learn in order for the scientific evidence of human biology to reveal itself and speak volumes? Do you know why the corpses have gone into a coma-like state, or is that your job, and it's none of my concern? Are their brains in a suspended state of animation, or do these things go into suspended animation like the dead, and just come back? You see, that's like their life gets frozen in a gelatin in a state like a phlogiston that only by carving it out does the life spill out. I've spilled out. I think that's where we can find and maybe revive some of the consciousness of the zombies, or what other things, but I just have not had enough material to work. What are your intentions, and are you prepared to answer some questions and do as you are told? I'm pretty much going to tell them anyway. It seems you don't mind telling people what they ask for but are still very curious what they are. Is it that you just haven't met the right woman, or that you've met so many bad women, and now want us to be the same? Frank, you need to listen carefully. We don't have time for any of your bullshit. We have a murderer out there who could still murder anyone in our community, and the only thing separating you from that killer or any member of your family might even be your willingness to speak. or to build this cup thusly with vulgar recycled waters. And when you do speak, it better be good, cause if you start talking bullshit, the first thing the police officer that gets to you with his gun and handcuffs might do is pull the plug on this interview and leave you to your own thoughts, which I assure you is worse than death for the elderly or the ill or the confused, as well as for the stupid who just won't stop talking. You need to be honest. If we want information out of you, then you can either give us truthful, accurate, complete answers with your best knowledge about everything, or you can take it as far as the next man, because we aren't going to get anywhere in here without your permission, and I think. Frank, I thought we were friends. Why you asking questions all of a sudden about me or my body, and why you trying to know about this zombie business? I'm sick of it. My head hurts all the time, like it has been a couple years. I got the pain in my head that makes you want to hurt somebody, and I've tried some pills, they made things worse for the head, they don't go away. You're a crazy asshole. I think the time has come. Do not fear for your health, Mr. Smith. We would never harm an old man like you, and even when you die we will have to leave it alone, because I think our goal here might require Frank's body and his brain, and maybe one last thing, that is the part he had inside the cup, which was not in the jar at the beginning, but it might be a brain, and the cup could also have other organs from what we saw on the way there in his yard. So I don't believe anything has happened to these things yet, because we are just looking and taking measurements to help figure out how we can get the zombies back in their own bodies, or even in their heads, but you are free to choose what we ask you for right now, so let us try again. Is that possible, to bring someone out of suspension if their consciousness still lingers inside this frozen flesh, or are brains just gone when something? Frank, I think it's a little both. Come on out back, but I think there's some specimens that are still moving that we can make experiments on and see if we can make something out of what you're thinking, because that shit don't happen by mistake. I think they need brains to function, or to keep them going. If your body starts falling apart, your head falls off. And then what you have are zombies with nothing to work on, just parts. I have an uncle that works for an automobile manufacturer that says that sometimes when engines have broken down and all there's left in the machine shop to put a head back on, you can do something like get a few teeth pulled. That's where the zombie thing came up, and why people say it's a virus, because it happens without warning. But my uncle and other men working in automotive say the thing that keeps a body functioning in an old car that has broken down, and the only way to go forward is to replace or repair some vital piece that you might have a good match for, and that would fix the body, but the body isn't dead anymore. The man says they'll still have life. We need Frank's body as well as a brain for our project we're trying to do, so if it would be possible and not too terribly complicated and not at the expense of Frank Smith's life, if there happened to be something wrong or damaged about his body, would you consent to having your remains cut open so we can use it as a sample? That would be fine. So I guess at the time when my body no longer needs itself, you can come back and make use of it. Okay, it's a deal. We can go now, Frank Smith. I'll get this filled out. Thank you. We're here at this address. It seems we found another of your houses, but it looks more lived in than you had let us know previously that your son and wife live at home, but they aren't around. We were surprised at how large the yard was, as the last house was smaller and much closer together, but it looks very well taken care of. The lawn is well watered, even at the edge of the woods. It is clear and healthy, and there aren't a lot of signs of weeds or any other kind of growth, which we assume means they pay their landscaper and they don't allow
any shenanigans.
"20 years later. We did the work on that yard, and we got the zombie thing out, but it's not like you'd know. The zombies don't mind, but they are all just sitting on top of each other, so if there was any way at all for someone to see inside that thing, they might think the zombies all died together at once. And I think if you saw what we saw, and then tried to do this, you wouldn't get very far. They just won't move or make a peep until we start pushing or shaking them, and even when they die they'll go into a sort of stupor, because it seems their body just doesn't seem to know when to." "Quit mourning, Frank, the unwitting father of them all. Your son didn't kill himself. He got shot up in the back or side, or wherever his heart used to be. I think maybe they found his head on a different porch, where the old couple used to sit at night with a fire to keep them company. Or the woman was just tired of the house because her husband died years ago and all their money had left town too, and there just wasn't enough going on in life to keep her satisfied. But he had never been there, so I guess she went on her way to be happy again, and they moved on, or they didn't have to go at all, cause now she has to worry about him instead of." "The other way around, he'll be fine with the new one, and she's fine being alone, cause this house was too much to keep anyway. She could get her house in town for cheaper. So we went to their door like a good citizen should, and she opened it for us, and when I tried to explain why we were looking for our victim, she said, 'You're here. But we haven't moved yet.' It must have seemed odd for her that we wanted her, and she was moving out. I think if you knew her well it would make sense, because you can't get anything more genuine or pure than a widow, and she didn't mind having people come by." "And she did not mind pissing in our cup, and that was all the difference. Frank died a year later in bed, and I don't have to do his report, and his corpse is gone now cause nobody's using what he left behind, just an old pair of pants. The wife and the son were dead within a year too, so there's nothing more left of him but bones, which is why he has no grave except the woods outside. They've been moved along. So Frank, the only man we ever met with a zombie infection of some kind who got it inside your home, is now in jail, in some other place that has no graves, but I can say he wasn't the one." "So it is win-win, I guess. If it doesn't work out, then at least it'll be done for me and everyone can move on cause they've gotten their piece of him, and that's the most a person can expect when a body gets moved around in any kind of system. There's still a whole bunch of zombies walking around, and not doing much of anything but sitting around with each other. They've made it their new family, and their own little world that no one can get near them or see what's going down, but maybe that's all the time in the world for some things. You just have to live through them.
That's a very somber zombie ending. It's very scratch your head and all zombie ending. Alright, that's it for now.